He sits and sits and sits as day comes to end. A thinking man with an idea he can't comprehend, for his typewriter sits vacantly, a lost, inanimate friend. His ideas grow weak as time passes by. He is a face on the water, a face that would make one weep and cry. A novelist at heart claims he in the chair, not with the makings of success, but despair. It's not the time, nor the place, nor the life. His days are numbered, a mortal coil that demands the drink, the death, or the knife. He sits and sits and sits as day comes to end, for 'tis a common demon that has infested him, without make of devil powder, nor lethal white sting. 'Tis not God's grass, nor mankind's party spirit. This demon relies on weakness, through the call of its golden brown hue. He drinks and drinks and drinks, for when he gives into the demon, it's all he can do. For his talent is lost in those moments. 'Tis nothing but a dying light in a field of black roses through and through, for he is never on the mend, and as day turns to night, beside him no friend. He sits and sits and sits as day comes to end. The minutes, the hours, the days pass by, but he is still here upon the earth. The demon has taken everything, his home, his talent, his life. He lives on the road now, and still his mortal coil demands the drink, the death, or the knife. He doesn't ask those around him for a helping hand. He would rather go on marching across the land, but he doesn't know and doesn't see. This isn't what he wants. This isn't the place he should be. But there is no sound from him, no desperate plea. He's a face on the water, and soon to be a face on the sea. He sits and sits and sits as day comes to end, beside the road or on a street bend. He wanders in the days and stops in the nights, a novelist at heart when he could turn on the lights. He has lost his typewriter, his work, the rite of pass. His work of fiction is now a work of broken glass. The pages that once he loved, the pages he held dear, they are gone now, but he sheds no tear. A man fully corrupted now, he sits on the brink, one of life and death with a half-shattered link. He needs to find his way to come back, but the novelist inside him is hidden, taken by a dark man named Jack, for the apple does not fall far from the tree. In the days before the novelist was here, ignoring his strengths and giving in to his fear, his father roamed this earth, a man forsaken it seemed from his time of birth, for he too fell under the demon's spell. 'Twas not mind over matter, but mind in hell, and through generation past it seems, the novelist likewise fell between the seams. Falling, falling, no ground to break this fall, no net, no breaks, none at all. For following in the footsteps of one possessed is not a good thing, nor is it one of request. And so he knows, and so he knows. After traveling a month or two, the novelist meets somebody on the road, somebody new. He carries a six-string on his back, a loaded instrument, an acoustic monster. He is an unknown Hendrix, a lone wanderer. He can sing like Lennon, likewise like Paul, the voice of an angel, an artist for all. He tells the novelist of his tale, a journey through thick and thin. He tells of black roses, of stinking of gin, and for the first time the novelist did listen, his eyes wide and his mind on the addiction. And so he saw, and so he saw. For when I was young, the guitar man said, I had a heart of steel, boots full of lead, and I was not who I am today. I didn't have the lessons, I knew not the way. My heart was only full of aggression. So I left, went where the wind took me, a far road north. Along the path of my beam I went forth. It was a road less traveled, of that I'm sure you know. But it was me and me alone, and I put on a good show. But soon I began to wonder, soon I looked inside. I found my soul was on fire and that I had lied to myself, lied to me. But I found my way again and I found it true. If you let me, I can help you to find you. The novelist thought this over, drink in hand, his gaze directed down, his thoughts on his stand. And when at last he decided it was true, he looked up, broke ground, found it new. Yes, he said, help me please. The guitar man nodded and handed him 2 items. You will need these. The novelist opened his hand and gasped in surprise. They were bullets he held. He couldn't believe his eyes. What's this? He said, watching the man go. You'll find out soon enough. You will come to grow. But keep them handy and keep them true, for they are a key for you. The guitar man left without a second word, leaving the novelist sitting there. What to do now, he thought, getting up from the bar. He wandered outside, his thoughts on a star, and when he looked up that man, night above him, a man with nothing but the clothes on his skin, he thought of home and his typewriter, sitting on that desk without meaning. And when at last his thoughts came to end, what was still on his mind was his inanimate friend. And when sunrise came with streaks of gold, the novelist realized the drink had grown old. His life was a fable, ready to be told. I know what these are for, he said, talking to the guitar man face to face. You have given them to me so I can find my place. And at that the other nodded, his smile full and true, and shook the novelist's hand, saying, You have work to do. The novelist agreed, for he saw the bullets were a turning point, the things that represented his strife. If he didn't shape up, eventually the bullets were going to end his life. And so he left the guitar man standing there in the road, left him with his monster 6-string, left the man he owed, and back home he went, back to his typewriter, the inanimate friend, the imagination biter. And once again he wrote the words, the story down on paper. For this was a story he wanted to share, a story people could read much later. He sits and sits and sits as day comes to end. A healing man now, a man on the mend. For he has returned home, this novelist of ours. He has returned home. His mortal coil no longer demands the drink, the death, or the knife. For he has overcome that bad time in his life. He sits and sits and sits as day comes to end, sitting gladly with his typewriter, his inanimate friend. For he is a face on the water, and we say it true, but no longer a face on the water like a statue. For he is a novelist, not a face in the crowd, and he is said as such to the world and made it loud. Thanks to the guitar man and his sense of self, he has written his books, and they now sit on the shelf. He is a thinking man with an idea he can now comprehend, for he has relied on his inanimate friend, and with each and every word he writes down thus, he writes it down in expression to all of us.